Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.
Seeing different screens than I am.
Abie Eisenbach of Milwaukee is a Republican candidate in the 17th Assembly District. The election is November 3rd. Mr. Eisenbach, welcome to WisconsinEye, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Well, as I go through your campaign materials, I want to ask you about a statement on them that it's time to root out problems in our city instead of just putting Band-Aids on those problems. Can you elaborate on that, sir?
Absolutely. There's reckless driving. There is people who just don't care anymore and think they could do whatever they want. So by ticketing people who drive recklessly or pulling them over, telling them to slow down, that's not really solving the issue of reckless driving. We have to get to the root of that problem, and that's education. When you educate the youth, they learn and grow up in a way that they can see right from wrong. Driving in and out of traffic, cutting red lights, that's a major problem we have here. So,
well,
sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to be sure you were done with your answer. Were you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Educating not only our youth, but people as well, adults. Not everyone went through driver's ed. Not everyone knows all the laws, all the rules. We have to educate people and explain to them and teach them the rules of the land.
Okay.
Not just punish them.
Right. This week, the governor wanted the legislature to be in special session to deal with his 9 bills on police reforms. Have you had a chance to go through those bills? Do we need police reforms in Wisconsin, Mr. Eisenbach?
I have not gone through those bills yet, but on the matter of police reform, no one thing is perfect. We can always strive to be better. So, do we need reform? Absolutely. Do we need better training? Absolutely. The world is changing, and we need to change with it, as do the police, as does everybody. So, yes, I believe in police reform.
When you saw the videos of what happened to Mr. George Floyd and Mr. Blake, what was your response, sir?
My response to George Floyd, and it shouldn't have happened, and to Mr. Blake in Kenosha, it shouldn't have happened. I've spoken to many cops about the George Floyd incident, and not one of them said, oh, he did good. Not one. And I agree that there's no reason he needed to sit on him like that. As with Mr. Blake, again, it's still new. We don't know all the info, but what it seems to me is that they could have handled it differently. And they should have handled it differently.
Okay. Let's talk about some questions related to the pandemic. Some Senate Republicans want to repeal the governor's statewide mask mandate. Do you have a position on whether we should all wear masks, sir, when we are in closed areas?
Being who I am, I'm not a doctor, but my doctor says to wear a mask, so I do. And I urge people to speak to their medical professionals. And they will all tell them to wear masks. So I am definitely, masks are needed. You got to listen to the medical professionals. So if Governor Evers or anybody in the government is going based off medical professionals, I agree with that 100%. I don't know how many doctors are in the Senate or in the Assembly or anywhere, but if it's based off doctors, I agree with it 100%.
Okay, now let's talk about the state budget. There was a report Monday that state tax collections, were actually up in the year that ended June 30, but everybody's worried about tax collections in the current year that ends next June 30. If we were $1 billion or $1.5 billion short, Mr. Eisenbach, would you prefer to cut taxes or raise taxes or cut spending?
I would prefer to do neither and find alternative ways to raise money. I'm a lifelong Wisconsin resident. I've gone to Illinois many times, and somehow we have to pay to go in there. So I have to obviously look more into it, but I don't see why we can't charge people to come in Wisconsin. They're all going to Door County, Wisconsin Dells, up northern Wisconsin. Why can't they pay for it as well? We have to come up with different ways to raise money in our state, not just taxing our citizens. Because
would you go along then with the governor's recommendation last year to raise the gas tax? Then,
no,
you would not.
We got to stop raising taxes. We got to find alternative ways to raise money here. People are living paycheck to paycheck, and especially in Milwaukee. And just to raise taxes, people need their car to get to work, and to raise gas by another however much it is, it's not okay.
What's the biggest thing you think you could do as the representative from the 17th district to help those people who are now living paycheck to paycheck?
I could help bring more jobs here, bring more funding for education or allocation of funds to figure out how to better spend it, how to make living here a better experience for everyone.
Some people see legalizing medical and recreational marijuana as a way to raise taxes. What's your position on that, sir?
They're buying it anyways, and I don't see why not.
Okay.
I mean, it's another way to raise revenue in our state.
The question over who should draw the next congressional legislative lines, the Constitution says the party in power in the Capitol, but the governor has recommended a People's Maps Commission that would draw lines and then forward it to the lawmakers to enact. What's your position on that, sir?
This happens all the time when their power shifts. These people want to do it, and then the other party wants to do it. I'm, again, new into politics, so I'm still learning the ropes. But I would love to have that discussion with anyone and figure out a way for it to work for everyone.
Let's talk about property taxes. We're a high property tax state. So school districts and local governments have lived with caps and limits on property taxes for more than 20 years. If you're elected and voting on the next state budget, should those caps and caps and limits on property tax levies stay in place to control property taxes?
Yes. Again, we can't be raising taxes. We need to keep it what it is or lower taxes and figure out alternative ways to bring capital to Wisconsin.
Because local governments rely so heavily on property tax, do they need new sources of revenue? Democratic Representative Evan Goyke from Milwaukee wants the city to levy its own half-cent sales tax. Do local governments need new sources of revenue?
Yes. Yes, we need to, again, figure out ways to bring in more money. And not only that, we have to figure out ways to spend it a lot more wisely. We can't just be throwing money at everything. We have to make in Hebrew, the word is cheshbon, an accounting of how we are spending the money. For example,
do you have any specific ideas of how local governments might raise that additional money, sir?
I am working with people trying to figure that out, but by bringing more businesses into the inner city, into Milwaukee, not just the downtown area, that will raise money as well, because you have state tax that is billable from these businesses.
We've seen how hospitals in Wisconsin and nationally have treated COVID-19 patients. If you're in the legislature voting on the next state budget, should hospitals be an even greater priority than they might be in the current budget, sir?
That is a very good question. I would say yes, but we also have to hold our insurance companies responsible for helping out the hospitals, not just the state. We have to lean on the insurance companies who are paying pennies on the dollar while our constituents are using the insurance. They need the insurance to keep going to the hospitals, to go to the doctors, and when the insurance doesn't pay, they get better care, so to speak.
Okay. This week, State Senator Chris Kappinga introduced a bill saying that if a business or an organization has followed CDC protocols on COVID to protect its customers and employers, they should be exempt from COVID lawsuits. Do we need a state law like that?
Unfortunately, these days, I think we do need that law, because you have these lawyers who will sue anybody over anything. So to cover the business owner, I believe that should be put into law.
Okay. Next question. When a school district or a local government wants to approve a major public works project, should they have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses? The reason I ask is a study found in 2015, out-of-state contractors got $72 million in public works projects, and that more than doubled to $146 million in 2018. Should local governments have to give a preference to Wisconsin businesses?
Being a Milwaukee boy myself, I think yes. We got to keep everything in home. We have to show that we care about our city, not only by saying it, or by putting signs out, or doing anything. We have to show it as well with our wallets. And if you're going to have major public work, it's the money's coming from the public, which is the city, and it should go back to the people who live here and work here.
We've talked about a lot of issues. I want to give you a chance. Is there any issue that's important to your campaign that we haven't yet mentioned, Mr. Eisenbach?
Well, there is something. I am a father of 6 children. So education is a very big part of what I believe in, as well as mental health wellness, which is the root of a lot of problems, unfortunately. If people had who to speak to, professionals to help them when they're younger and guide them and teach them and just speak with them, people would be a lot different than they are today. So we need to bring mental health awareness back to the forefront and get rid of that stigma that if you're speaking to a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, that means you're crazy. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It means you need someone to talk to. You need someone there for you. So we got to bring that back to schools as well as for the general population. Not just people in school, but everywhere. Adults, young adults, regular adults, seniors. They need their mental health taken care of. You go to a doctor when you don't feel well. Mental health is a real thing. And
final question. Do you want to highlight differences between you and your opponent on November 3?
The difference is that, as you said, I'm running as a Republican and they hold the majority in the assembly. So the difference is I'm with the majority. So I will have an easier time getting changes done being in the majority than my opponent will. Because, again, I'm in the majority. So, and being a lifelong Milwaukee resident and a lifelong District 17 resident, my roots here go deep. So no matter what storm comes, no matter how big the winds are, no matter how much people are pushing at it, my tree, my roots will stay firm, and I will fight for this city.
Thank you, Mr. Eisenbach. Abie Eisenbach is of Milwaukee, is a Republican candidate in the 17th Assembly District. The election is November 3rd. Sir, thank you for speaking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me. God bless you. Be well.
Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.